Hello everyone, I'm Griffiths and this is Coffee with Ceri. Now if you've not seen one of these before, it's basically once a month I sit down, cup of coffee, and I choose a subject which I've become aware of and I basically just talk about it to raise awareness, to maybe start someone else's conversation. I try to avoid subjects that get confrontational because I always want to try and put both halves to a conversation or a topic. I don't want to offend anyone. It's not what I'm here for. It's basically just taking 10 or 15 minutes, sit down, just to raise a topic, and hopefully you'll raise a cup of coffee with me. Now it's absolutely freezing cold out there at the moment, so a hot cup of coffee is very welcome for my little hands. So I became aware of a phrase last year which I hadn't honestly heard, and it was something I went, no, and it's taken a while for it to sort of settle in my brain, and I've heard this phrase more and more now, and the phrase is death cleaning, and I'm like, okay, what the heck is that all about? And I've sort of done a bit of digging and finding out, and a lot of you are probably going to go, oh, that's blah, 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 blah. I just hadn't heard that phrase. I don't know where it's come from. It's just a something. And I think probably because I'm in the creative world, and as an artist and crafter and creative person, you tend to accumulate stuff throughout your life because you'll need it. And probably more so if you're an artist and a crafter, because that's what we do. We collect stuff. Some unkind people call it hoarding. It's not hoarding, it's making sure I've got the resources to create what I want to create. Although some of you are hoarding. And I probably have one or two drawers over there that really need looking at because I'm probably hoarding stuff which I should be making or using. Anyway, I digress. And what this phrase is, basically, it's preparing for death. Whether you're ill or not ill, it's becoming obvious that certain people, when they reach a certain age, decide, I need to sort myself out. I need to get rid of stuff. I don't want to lumber the children or the grandchildren with sorting this out. And people will start going through their belongings and maybe donating to charity shops, maybe downsizing their stash, like this whole studio. I mean, when I pass away, the only other relative I've got is my sister. She's not going to know what the heck to do with all of this. I dread to think what she's going to do with all this. That's maybe a conversation I need to have. Anyway, so people are beginning to downsize when they reach a certain age. And not just supplies, things like they'll go through the wardrobes and clear those out. They'll go through their attic and get rid of stuff. So basically this basically simplifying our lives when we think the end is coming. And I hadn't heard of that before, and I was quite surprised at it, and maybe it made me think. Now, I've just turned 64 years old. As far as I know, there is no health issues with me. Probably a little bit nuts on the side, a little bit insane and whatever, but that's just joking aside, obviously. So, like the rest of us, we never know when the end is coming, unless you happen to have some sort of unfortunate terminal thing enter your life where you do. And I wouldn't know how I feel if someone said, oh, are you death cleaning, Ceri? I don't know how I'd feel about that. Now, for me, what I do is probably once a year, and we've got a phrase here in the UK called spring cleaning. So basically, when the nicer weather starts to creep in and the bulbs are up in the garden and everyone looks around and goes, right, it needs to freshen this house up a bit, and you'll find people that go through their closets and get rid of some clothes and probably redecorate a couple of rooms, and I'll probably go through a couple of cupboards and go, really, I haven't used that in 2 years, that needs to go. And that's different, but I don't know, death cleaning, I don't. I really don't know. I mean, have you heard of it? I hadn't until about a year ago, as I said. And then I didn't come straight in and talk about it because I didn't want to misinterpret it. Um, it makes a lot of sense. If I knew my health was failing or I was getting to the point in life where I was no longer able to be independent, and I needed to sort stuff out, it would actually give me both sadness because I'd have to be doing it, but it would also give me joy to be able to sort my possessions out and physically hand them or pass them to a person who I knew would appreciate them. As I said, the studio here there's a lot of stuff in here. But to the layman, a lot of the stuff in here just looks like junk. But to another artist or another crafter, I don't know why I'm differentiating. You know what I mean? Saying there's a difference between two, because I think both artists and crafters both create art. So that's just my opinion. They would look around this as a goldmine, and I'm not about to be shuffling it out the door and passing it away. I do periodically go through this room, and I've got a bin sort of over there. I say a bin, it's a plastic tub that sits near the door. And if it's becoming obvious that there's something I'm no longer using, or like when I used to do demonstrations on TV shows, the company I was demonstrating for would send me the entire show's worth of products, because I'd have to work out demonstrations, I'd have to get used to the products, I'd have to understand how, say, paints or inks worked, or how the glues were to handle, or the clays. They'd give me all of that, because then I'd not only have to create demonstrations, I'd have to create an entire TV display piece of all different elements from within this kit or kits. And what would happen is, because I will have opened every single bundle of everything, because I needed to as part of what I was being paid for, at the end of that project, which was the TV show, there was no point sending it back to the warehouse, because the warehouse would just put it in a corner and then eventually it would go into a skip. Now, when you're doing TV demonstrations, you are not paid a lot of money. Believe me, it's a lot of work for not a lot of money. However, to compensate the fact that you don't get paid a lot, you end up with brand new product from the company you're working with. So it's sort of swings and roundabouts with that. But say I was doing, let's see, what kind of thing about. I did a mermaid launch a few years ago, and it was with a silicone mold, and it was for both cake and craft. And I designed these MDF beach huts, and so we went with the whole sea theme. So I made all the display pieces, but even after doing everything, I had so much of this stuff left. And the thing was, I was never going to use the majority of it again. Now, obviously, cardstock is cardstock. I will always use it. Even if I don't like the look of it, I can paint over it. I can layer it. I can turn it into something else. I can stick book page on. Paper stock, cardstock, usually not a problem. But when I've got bundles like gems and jewels and specific paints that I don't normally use, like little shimmer paints that were meant specifically for the type of medium I was working in, and I saw no use for them. So basically the pot or the tub over there, or the bin, is where all that would go. And then when I sent out Happy Mail or I did a swap, I would actually then just gift some of that out. Or if I was doing a demonstration somewhere for like a guild or a women's institute or something, I would put together a basket or a box and donate it to them, and then they would hold a raffle to raise more funds for it. So when you're working with a company where you've got that amount of product coming in, and you've got to remember, I was doing shows probably every other week at this point, and this studio was getting fuller and fuller and fuller. And at that point, yes, I was sending stuff out. I was gifting it to friends. I was gifting it to fellow artists. I mean, there's a woman that a friend Jane and I know, and she, off her own back, runs creative hobby afternoons in old age homes, you know, for pensioners who are living in an old people's home, basically. Can't think of the right word for it, so please, I don't mean to offend anyone. And she doesn't get paid for it. She pays for all the products on her own. She does it because it's her way of giving back. So very often I would hand over a whole bundle of stuff to her because that's the way it was, and that's just the pleasure in giving it rather than keeping it and letting it collect dust is far better for me internally, just to clear that out, because I knew in 2 weeks' time there'd be another huge box arriving from the company going, right, we need to do this month. This month would be dragons, this one would be mermaids, this one would be spacemen, this one would be a watercolor card set. You get the picture. And when you reckon that's probably happening 20 times a year, I'm getting these big boxes of stuff, and I don't sell stuff. I make stuff, but I don't sell it. I usually gift it, or I swap it, or I exchange it, stuff like that. So it's not even like I've got an outlet for all of this stuff. Now, whatever I made was always professionally photographed, so that if the companies I worked with went to big craft or art shows, there would be big posters of the things I created on the wall, and the very best of the display pieces I would always return to the company, because they always had display cases where maybe they would hold meetings in their meeting rooms and they would want nice things on display. Or if another artist working for the same company was going to be using the same products that I had in a launch maybe, then I would send them some of my display pieces, because I can tell you now, creating an entire television show full of display pieces is no easy task. Most companies in the arts and crafts world do have design teams who are sent a small amount of product. They have to create something and then send it back, and then they keep the surplus of the products for themselves. Great way to hone your skills, great way to get notoriety, great way to maybe even do things like blogs or how-to videos, because you're making it anyway and the product is free while you do it. So anyway, I was kind of digressed, and I've gone down this little rabbit hole to the side. So yes, the whole death cleaning thing. I'm not sure how I feel about that. I mean, as I said, it saddens me that someone gets to the point in their life that they go, it's time to start shutting things down. Unless, of course, it is beyond their control and they've been notified that it's the end is nigh. Let's leave it at that. I think part of me, if I knew that things were slowing down for me and I wasn't coping with life, I personally, and this is the flip side of the coin, as I said, I would personally like to control how my treasures and my belongings and my resources are handled, other than one day being trundled off to an old age person's home and someone just comes in and just basically just either bins the lot or sees no value in it to anyone, or just throws it all in a local charity or thrift store, and then those people are like, well, what do I need books with pages ripped out? What do I need old documents for? They're just rubbish. And then they throw them away. So I don't know, it's an interesting thing to think about. I'm not sure. I've got to mull that one over myself. So anyway, let me know if it's something you're aware of. I will always read comments, by the way. If I don't answer a comment, I've usually put a little heart or something on saying that I have. So I've read the comment. If there's a question within it or a comment I feel I should answer, then I will always answer. Just give me a little time. There's a lot of comments come in from all of my videos, and believe me, it's hard to keep up. But I love it, and please keep interacting. I'm no problem with that at all. So death cleaning, a new phrase for me. As I said, I'd never heard of it before last year. So probably within the last 12 months, that's a new phrase that's entered my vocabulary. And I have noticed that people of a generation that I know are doing it, but not calling it anything. They're just basically cleaning house. They're starting to get ready to go. So anyway, I'm just going to leave that there because I don't want to get all morbid and morose about it. It was just something that, have you heard it? Are you likely to do it? Is someone you know acting in that way, although they've not said they're death cleaning? Is there a reason why they're doing it? I don't know. Would you like to do it? Probably. I don't know. Interesting. Anyway, I'm going to sign off now. That's about 15 minutes of me gossiping on and on. Yeah, something to think about. Another phrase has entered the English language, or whichever language it's translated into, and something that caught me a little bit unawares. Maybe, as I said, maybe it's always been there, and it's just because I've hit this age that I'm beginning to be aware of it. So until next time, I'm Ceri Griffiths. Some of you know me as Ceri the Crafter. And let's have a think, and I'll see you next month. Okay, cheers, guys.